There he is. Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I was just explaining that this is going to be called, we're calling it right now, Group of Seven Tea Time, and just an opportunity for us to catch up in person and provide some updates on what's happening in the Group of Seven world, along with our own comic-loving world.
Right.
Yeah. Did
It's a good
you?
chance. It's just mostly a chance for me to talk to you and you to talk to me.
I agree.
And
In
it's just,
person is
well, yes, as best we can at the moment, right?
exactly,
So, yeah,
exactly.
it's
Uh,
always a good chance to catch up on things face to face in this way, so that it's more fun and it's clearer.
mhm.
All like the mood is better instead of reading your nasty texts. They're so sarcastic, and I can't gauge your sense of humor at all that way.
They're
But
often filthy too. They're just filthy texts.
face to face, what I like about it is that although it's a more fun experience talking to you face to face, I never remember a single thing we talked about.
But that's
So
why we
whatever
have it.
details we share, it's just
But that's why we have it on our channel. That's why we have the
right.
recorded pieces on our Instagram TV channel, so people can go and watch. We can remember. We can watch. Remember what we said. Now, are you drinking tea right now?
Well, since the idea about tea time, the group of seven or whatever it's called, was proposed, I committed hard
Nice.
to having tea. And if I remember correctly, last week you threw me under the wagon
Mm.
uh, by having red wine.
I did. Yeah, it was a long work week, so I just had some red wine.
Well, what's better than having a cup of tea after a long work week?
How about a cup of eggnog?
Oh, you did it again,
Mm. Noggy.
Sanigan. You beautiful bastard. You did it again.
It's,
It sounds very unappealing. I think I smelled it once, and that was enough. Yeah,
I mean,
I would. You know
look at the
what?
color. Look at the color. It's milk gone bad.
Oh, dude.
To
How are you? What have you been up to this week in terms of making comics and etc.?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm looking forward to get some holiday time coming up, so I'm looking forward to that. In terms of making comics, making some great progress on the final. So I've been writing bit by bit, the Peregrine script. I know that you mentioned last week you're already working on or halfway through issue one of Pencils and Inks. So over the last year, 2 years, the script has been coming along, and I'm right now writing the final climactic scene of part four, which will be Group of Seven number 10.
10. Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of actually I found a really nice way to work, which is over the last month or so. So I usually start my workday around 8 or so. So I work from home virtually, and then I usually end it around 4 or so. My meetings are done. I kind of turn off. But what I've found really helps me is I'm still between Monday and Friday in work mode. At 4 o'clock at the end of the day, like I'm still in some kind of productive mode,
Right.
right? So what I do is I've just kind of taken that hour or so after the kids have come home, they're kind of settled up, and right and before we eat dinner, and turn my attention to writing during that hour and a half. Because I'm already at my desk, I'm already set
Yeah.
up, and what I found is it's been really productive because I've been able to just kind of write, a paragraph here, a scene there, 10 lines here, and it just starts plotting forward. And then you kind of look back at the end of the week and you're like, oh wow, we're already like this issue's either done or
Right.
or or all those things that I think about at 11 o'clock at night that I won't get up and write the story have actually come out and during that period onto the paper. So all to say, yeah, working my way towards the very end of part four. Really excited. Again, it's just without spoiling the ending or spoiling where it's going. Just we're talking about Act Three of anything, whether it's a story or a movie, where we get to see
Right.
the final confrontation between
Yeah.
heroes and villains, and it's a blast to write.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
I don't remember if I asked you last week, but I'll ask again anyway. Are you finding that anything that you're putting down, when you're typing into the script for issue four, or sorry, not issue four, part four, is informing elements of part one or two or three that you're having to now change in the script? especially giving a warning to giving
Yeah,
a
giving you a
warning to
heads up.
the
Giving you a heads
artist.
up. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm actually more interested as an interviewer
Yeah.
to learn about the process if writing part four is informing something from part one or two or three.
It is. It isn't as much now as it was a month ago when I figured out how to end the series.
Right.
So once that came,
Excuse me.
once that was, oh, that's right. You okay?
It's the nog. The nog
It's the
is
knock. Once
it's
that was
sitting there.
a little illuminated for me, then I was able to go back to other issues and start playing around, not trampling on what you've already done. We're already good there,
It's fine. I don't
but
mind.
certainly,
It's good.
going back and adjusting here and there when it comes to things like motivation and language, a word here, a phrase there,
Right.
that then sets up the climax. So yeah, it's been really cool from that perspective. And again, as I think we talked about it, I don't know if we talked about it last week, but we said, the final product will still change. Like this is a bit of a living document, a living
Right.
series. So issue four is, or part four is going to look like part four, but it's not going to look like part four as it is written right now. So
Right.
um,
I'm
yeah,
totally open and into having to redraw whatever needs to be redrawn. Uh, for two reasons. Reason number one, most obvious, because it's going to make the story better,
right,
and that always has to be at the front of my mind. So I'm never, concerned about that. Not about ego, but about making the story as good as we possibly can, because we're
yeah,
both into that. And the second element is I never mind having the opportunity to fix a drawing that I could do better.
right,
So if you make a change to the script in some way, it gives me the opportunity to open up a wound and try and
yeah,
fix it, which is cathartic but also dangerous, a slippery slope. But once in
right.
a while, I definitely I relish in the opportunity to improve upon something I did. I don't consider it to be a hassle. I really don't, especially well, not with you.
Oh, thanks.
If I was making comics with someone else and they weren't
Anybody else?
with
Anybody else?
anyone else in the world, and they weren't the same. But no, with you, I really don't mind doing that at all. It's like there's a good dynamic there, so I'm into that. So I'm
Yeah,
excited to hear that. I'm excited to hear that there's the energy that you bring into writing the
yeah,
fourth part of our second story arc with
yeah.
Peregrines. That's very cool, and it's
And
hard.
how?
You know me, I love to rush ahead. I'm already like in my, I've been texting you about
I know. Do you
issue
want?
11, and
Do
I'm
we
like,
want to?
what are you doing,
Why don't
dude?
we talk about that? Why don't we? What?
Well,
Do you want to?
I do like that one of the things that you and I get to do is find little ways to just blow kisses at the genre of superhero mainstream comics once in a while. I mean, I remember in the third issue we kind of formatted the cover to look like an early '80s comic with the way the publisher's title across the top and the corner
Yeah.
box with the faces.
The
Which now, if I was
faces.
to do it again, I would do it so much
Yeah.
better. Oh my god! I've been deep diving into corner box art for the last few months, so I definitely have some ideas, and I finally like researched how did Silver Age and Bronze Age Marvel artists create corner boxes? Like, what was their process? And particularly with Star Wars ones, and I've seen the original line art that was done for all the sort of Return of the Jedi era Star Wars comics, and it's on like one piece of paper. The art's really beautiful. The
Right.
artist just went and created. Was it Ron Friends? I don't remember who it was. I have to look it up again. But created all these different images, and they're great. Like they're really cool looking, iconic images and simple line art, and then they were just photocopied and shrunk, or photostat and shrunk to
Mm-hmm.
match the size is necessary. So there were much larger drawings that are shrunk down, but they're really really cool. Anyway, so I would love to do corner boxes again somewhere. Maybe on that particular publication we'll do a corner box again, or maybe you'll want one, inspirational strike, and you'll want one on one of the Peregrines issues. We'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see how we do. Which I guess, I mean, just to talk openly and creatively,
Yeah.
what we do for the cover of issues 7 through 10 doesn't have to necessarily be the same thing we do for the trade.
No, it does not at
So
all.
if, let's say, we like the cover of issue 7 for the entire series, which was kind of in my mind when designing it,
Yeah.
It's thematic of the whole series, not just the single issue. We can still, remove those um, comic booky kind of elements, which we
Hmm.
love, for a graphic novel style cover.
Yeah.
It lends itself nicely to that design. It works both ways. So there would be two iterations of that cover if we wanted to, which I kind of think maybe I do. But
I
you
think
know,
we, yeah,
and
we, yeah.
given that the opportunities to sell comics has diminished greatly without comic convention stuff around, we might print less of the.
Yeah.
We'll see what the
We'll
pre-orders
see.
are like, but
Yeah.
we might end up printing less of issue 7, the first
Hmm.
issue of Peregrines, than we eventually make of the trade.
Yeah, and that's consistent with the trajectory of issues 1 through 6, and then
Yeah,
we'll trade again, right? And
but
I
also the
guess,
industry
yeah, well,
at
exactly.
single issues,
That's
right?
and then we it's funny how we were told that ahead of time.
Yeah,
Getting
Robert, I
we got
remember.
some good advice, yeah,
Yeah,
and then we saw it happen, and we're like, oh, so I mean, maybe we should have listened. But at the same time, we were also really giddy and excited to move forward.
make
However,
comics.
and we know any better, which is fine. We're learning, but it is interesting to see that development and then to live through it and like have it actualized, so that we can then use that as a big learning point.
Yeah,
Speaking of learning, what are you going to say?
go ahead, go
I
ahead.
was going to say, speaking of learning points and
Yes,
learning and comics, I understand that you were involved in some comic making workshops over the last couple of days. I was wondering
yes.
if you could just kind of speak to
Trace.
what thrice.
Yeah.
When I touch my belt buckle, not once, not twice, but thrice. Um, I want to, yeah, talk about a little bit about the workshops and what was going on there and how they
I'll
went.
try and be quick because I've noticed the time. Um, yeah, I was contacted by a fellow Richmond Hill comic creator, writer Howard Wong, about bringing the penciler illustrator perspective to a workshop, a 3-part workshop around creating a single page of comics for beginners. And Howard was, creating a script over the 3 days, and I was going to then illustrate that script over the 3 days as well. And it was a lot of fun. We did it through a Toronto community arts program. There's a festival that would normally run every year called Figment Toronto, and Figment obviously had to be virtual this year, and so we did these 3 workshops, and it was great. They were all free, which was fantastic for the community, and we had people as close as within this house participating, and as far away as Germany. There were people in Los Angeles, Santa Fe, New Mexico, yeah, like all over the place. A lot more from Toronto, but people were able to access it through Eventbrite. So anyone who was looking at Eventbrite's events to see what was available could have come across it if they're interested in something comic book oriented or art oriented. And it was really cool to try something different. It was great to collaborate with someone new, in a writer artist dynamic, both so that it broadens my horizons as a collaborator, and also reminds me of um, the benefits of working with someone you've worked with before. As you and I have our shorthand established after the few years we've worked together, but the 20 years we've been friends, or
Yeah.
whatever number it is now, their shorthand is there, and like getting to find that shorthand with a new person is an exciting and intellectually interesting thing to do. But it was really cool to have people share their artwork and share their ideas. The gentleman I mentioned, who was on with us from Germany, he pitched an idea for a panel that I was doing differently. And he just popped in. He was comfortable sharing his drawing. He's like, "Oh, I would have done panel 5 this way." I'm like, "All right, let's do it your way." And I just erase what I'm doing and do it his way, which was great to do because it
Mhm.
made the story clearer. And I was struggling with that stuff. And I did the drawing live. Like I shared my screen, and I was drawing live on Photoshop, which I've never done before, which was really cool. It's all I think if you're asking people in a workshop to try something new, nothing wrong with putting your money where your mouth is, and show my weakest work in front of people when you're asking them to learn, and maybe take some risks too. That was a lot of fun. I would gladly do it again, and I learned a lot through the process, and look forward to doing more workshops with a variety of people and with my good old buddy Chris Sanigan. I hope we get to do one again soon,
I
or
hope so
many.
too.
Yeah, it was
I hope
cool.
so
It was
too.
cool to do.
That's awesome.
Uh,
And so the participants were like all ages?
they were. I think it was originally geared toward maybe young adult to adult, but it didn't. It wasn't specified because it's community based. So
Right.
it's you can picture that kind of Toronto, like Dufferin Park, but it could have been Cabbage Town. It could have been
Yeah,
anything.
of course.
And you know that whoever comes,
Yep.
and there's no boundaries on that. So I tried to keep that approach with my messaging, and the way I was speaking was trying to be as broad as possible. Unless I got a specific question from a specific person, then I
Right.
slow down my vocabulary or choose different
Right.
words, or slow down my delivery, I should say, and or the opposite, get more specific if I'm asking a technical question where there's some industry verbiage required. I could do that too. So yeah, we had children showing their artwork. They were drawing Pusheen, or sock monsters and all sorts of things. And then there was a very very friendly um, senior who was on,
Cool.
who had never drawn comics and wanted to do anything but superheroes or violence. Wanted to pursue a completely different genre within the medium that was, it's out of my experience, but it's such a cool thing to see the enthusiasm in people to discover a new way to share their stories and share their ideas, and to force me to like rethink. She was talking about using oil pastel, no line work, right? Just like flat color
Hmm.
and shape to tell her stories. And I can't wait to read it. It'd be really cool to see
Yeah.
what comes out of that. So it was very cool. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome.
You reading any comics lately? Anything
I am
cool?
reading, I'm not reading any comics this week, but I am reading, but here's the but. The but is I'm reading short stories that are designed and decorated by Canada's probably most famous cartoonist, Seth, at the moment.
Right.
And they are called, these little things here, they're ghost stories for Christmas. And
Ghost stories for Christmas.
yeah, have you heard of these?
No, but I can only
Oh,
think of,
they're,
historically speaking, I mean, in pop culture, there's just the one, right? I mean,
that's where
that's
this,
cool.
that's
That's
where
great.
the tradition, Christmas Carol, obviously being the one you're talking about,
Of course.
and
I
it
was going
was
to say
actually
Scrooged.
so these exactly. So these are actually put up by Biblioasis, which is a publisher out of Windsor, actually, Ontario. They're always up. I don't know. They constantly just keep having people nominated for Gillers and things on their roster. So good for them. But a few years ago, they released this series, 3 a year. They're designed and decorated by Seth. You can see it's got a lot of the hallmarks of cartoonist Seth kind of all over this stuff. There you go.
Right.
Really quite beautiful. And actually, it is,
Graphic.
yeah, and it's following a tradition where the telling of ghost stories is actually quite common in Victorian times and up to Edwardian as well. Kind of dissipated after the First World War into the 1930s, but they've collected these kind of random, well, not random, they've collected these selections of ghost stories,
Hmm.
reprinted them, and designed them, and they're just kind of tons of wacky, kind of creepy fun this time of the year. So I've been reading those, which is really nice because I will say this, because they are short stories. Again, it's the compartmentalization of, like you need to get to your ending in a certain amount of pages, and so
Right.
to just to you learn from that for sure. I think it's a good learning point to the comic book piece as well, just based on the actual amount of language that's used and that you should be using to get your story across. And they're just tons of creepy fun. So, how
That's
about you?
awesome.
How about you? What do you read?
November
Oh
is
yeah,
something I've been reading by Matt Fraction and Elsa Charretier, Matt Hollingsworth. Um, Crime fiction. Seemed like in the first book it was going to be short stories, and now it's kind of the ties are starting to show between the short stories, which is really cool.
cool.
But I really love, the more you and I get into print, the more I think about how I'd like to print. And this one is embossed, so there are like it's textured, and I really dig the use of color. I know that, well, I believe that the art was generated just as black and white art, and then Matt Hollingsworth goes in and colors the heck out of it. but it's done in that noirish, not quite monochromatic, but it's choice color. And I know you and I have been talking about how we want to present our comics for a long time, and obviously everything's been black and white up to this point. And if we ever do decide to go color, it's not like, oh, let's go bright,
Right.
64 color palette. It's like, let's choose three, they're
Yep.
muted, and
Yep.
let's keep it looking like old film footage or
Yep.
whatever. Just keep that mood. So I always like seeing other artists use color and choose a palette that keeps that mood, that sort of suits their story, and then try and do the math like, okay, what palette would suit our story, or how would that be? So I love Elsa's line art. I think she's awesome,
Cool.
and Matt Fraction is weaving up a good tale. So I'm into it.
Nice.
They're really cool. I think there's two more books for me to get to eventually, and it comes from Image Comics, and it's a nice little addition to my shelf of crime fiction, which I'm a
Wicked.
big fan of course.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Hey, Chris Barnes.
Yeah, see that. All right. Well, I think before we go, because you should probably head out.
Yeah.
I can say that for those watching, listening, is that the Group of Seven Most Secret Tale trade will be
Right.
available. Will be available on. Hey, Chris. Hope you're doing well, man.
Merry Christmas, Chris.
Absolutely, Merry Christmas. Will be available on Comixology sometime soon. We just got the notice this week. We submitted it for approval. It was approved. And so, hopefully sometime soon, that'll be another way to get access to Group of Seven comics through Comixology. So we're pretty
Right.
psyched about that.
I still don't really know what that means yet,
Right.
in terms of, do they advertise, or do they promote our stuff in any way on their own?
Right.
I haven't explored Comixology as a way to consume comics yet,
Right.
um, but I'm looking forward to, again, like going into something new as it kind of comes near us,
Yeah.
to learn what it is too. It should be kind of cool. And any
Yeah.
new way to share our comics is something good as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Our friend Claudio did say about Comixology that they do advertise, and he's seen his comic from Comixology when he goes to the MSN webpage. So thanks, Claudio. We will absolutely keep our eyes up for that. And actually, and hope you're doing well, by the way. It's been a while, so hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I haven't seen them since the holiday market last year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Fingers
yeah.
crossed for Holiday Market 2021.
21. Yeah,
We'll see.
hopefully.
All
All
right,
right,
man.
buddy.
Well, it's been awesome seeing you as always and chatting with you. And we'll do this again in a little while. And happy
Cheers.
holidays.
You
And
too, bud. Merry
we'll see you
Christmas.
soon. Thanks, pal. Appreciate it.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Talk soon.
Bye. We're just gonna take this time to
Swallow as loudly into my
Oh,
microphone as I
I'm
possibly
gonna
can.
send you this much.
Goodbye.
Bye.